We're here today for a couple, three reasons. Number one, we've got a great new hymn project that the company is proud of, you guys are proud of, and you should be proud of it. And secondly, we're here because we've been friends for many, many years. We were talking this morning, I think the main reason we're here for is four-part harmony.
Oh, we love that.
I remember growing up here in this little town and went down to Dallas, Texas to what today we would call a music camp, where kids get together in the summer for 3 weeks in 110-degree temperature, humid as could be in Dallas, Texas, staying in an un-air-conditioned boarding house with 600 kids.
Wow.
Who loved harmony. And not only harmony, it was called the Stamps School of Music, but it was gospel harmony.
Was that in Bethel Temple?
It was an old Bethel Temple.
That's where I went. I went there too when I was a junior in high school.
I heard those 600 kids singing at Bible Harmony, and I saw those beautiful Southern girls. I went, wow, this is for me.
You're in Texas.
You're in Texas.
Yeah. That's where they ship all those girls out from, Texas. Don't they?
That's right.
Well, didn't you teach at Stamp School once?
Well, I did. You know, before I joined the Oak Ridge Boys, I sang with the Stamps.
Yeah.
And I actually taught a bass singing class at the Stamps School of Music in Waco, Texas. You know, and that was a great experience. You know, JD passed so many words of wisdom on to me when I worked with him, and I tried to pass that on to these young kids. It was a great experience, it really was, yeah.
Now, you and Joe connected in Philly, right, with the...
Yeah, in the Delaware Valley area. When I was in high school, a bunch of Christian kids turned me on to gospel quartet singing. They took me to some of these concerts, and I was kind of I was a hoodlum in progress in Philadelphia, and my mother prayed all the time that something would happen to change my ways, and it did. Christian kids never let up on me. They finally told me that you come out here to one of these concerts with us, and if you don't like it, we'll never bother you again. And there's a side story to that one of the youth leaders of the church, Christian Endeavor was the organization at the church, and his name was Bunky Smalling. And Bunky had a 1961 Buick Invicta convertible, white with a red interior. And going to that gospel show was in his car. And I really wanted to ride in that car. So you might say a car led me to Christ. But anyway, to make the story short, I went to some of those shows, fell in love with it, joined my high school choir, was always trying to make a quartet out of every other 3 guys I could find, could not do it, found nobody that loved it. Then I went to a big show in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and up on the stage with the Keystone Quartet was this young 19-year-old bass singer named Richard Sturban. And when I walked in the back of the Farm Show Arena, the first thing I heard was, "Let the lower lights be burning," and it was him. Well, I found out he was from the Philadelphia area, so I finally tracked him down and found him. He was selling men's clothes at Gimbel's. And I went down there to Gimbel's, and I would follow him all around, and we would talk gospel quartets, just like we have done here all morning. And I found a soulmate here. And eventually, when I would buy a shirt on occasion from him. But after a while, Richard and I became good friends. And although he was a little older than me, still is, we became brothers, and because we felt like we were the only 2 guys in the whole Philadelphia area that even knew who the Blackwoods and Statesmen were. So we became friends. We even went to the same voice teacher for a while. And then eventually, Richard was doing some different things, and that old Keystone Quartet that had broken up reorganized. And after a while, they needed a singer. Richard called me and asked me if I wanted to come sing full-time. I was working at a sugar company. And I said, yeah, man, I'll come. I said, wow, I'm going to go sing full-time finally. And we joined up together and sang. And we sang together in the Keystones for about 6 years together before Richard went and joined JD, then joined the Oaks in '72. And during that time, I'd become friends with the Oaks. Dwayne Allen produced 10 albums on my Keystone group. Me and Golden were famous for our late-night conversations. He would tell me that he really believed in what I was doing, and he brought the Keystones down south. I brought the Oak Ridge Boys up north, and we just all became real good friends. And then in '73, a year after Richard joined, William called me and to offer me Willie's job, and I took it in '73, and the rest is history.
What'd you listen to when you were a kid?
We listened to the Grand Ole Opry.
So you're pretty country, yeah.
Yeah. And I grew up singing and playing as a little kid,
Yeah.
playing guitar and singing. My sister, she was older than me, and she played mandolin. And they taught me to sing harmonies, my sister and my mother. And but we played and sang all over and sang on the radio. My granddaddy Golden was a fiddle player, and he had a radio show. And so when we were little, we got to sing on his radio show. And little kids, we were invited everywhere to sing around. And so in high school was my first quartet singing. And we had a...
How'd you get into that? I mean, did the group already exist?
They
knew
did.
you?
And then one of the guys that was singing graduated, and happened the next year I became eligible to sing with them.
Yeah.
And the other guys were a year older than me,
And so you would have been 16, 17 then?
I was a junior in high school.
Yeah. Now, at that time, were you listening on the radio to some of the groups, and what groups would that have been in Southern
They came
Georgia?
to our high school, actually. You know, we
Like
had,
who? What groups would come?
Statesman Quartet, Blackwood Brothers,
Yeah.
Hovey Lister, the old original Oak Ridge Boys. But they came, the Lefebvres came. You know, it was the Harmoniers. And,
What got your attention on it as a kid?
Well, I enjoyed the four-part harmony in high school, singing in the quartet. We would sing, we actually just sang, the Oak Ridge Boys just recorded a song that we sang in high school. It's Swing Down, Sweet Chariot. And, but we also sang like Sincerely, the McGuire Sisters.
McGuire Sisters?
We'd sing it in a four-part harmony, and so that was my start in quartet singing.
How many years ago did you start?
I started in '66, so I finished 55 years. And
To me, in Gloria, all life is sacred. It's the secular and the spiritual.
Celebrate life.
The country and the gospel. It's, people have had a hard time pigeonholing us, but man, we love life. And you don't do art, you don't do anything for 40 or 50 years unless you love doing it. And the thing that's so great about you guys, and I mean great, is back to how many years now?
I was the last to join in '73, and I've been here 47 years.
That is a long time for a group to. Our present group has been together for 9 years. That's a long time.
Yes, it is.
For a group to. But that is unbelievable. And trust me, folks, it's not been totally smooth. These are four human beings, and they're all different, and they have different. They come at it differently, as is true with our group. But the harmony and the reason you're doing what you're doing blows my mind. It just I'm sorry, it just blows my mind.
Well, Bill, you mentioned harmony, and you said it, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, the harmony at home. We've all just come through this pandemic where every one of us was shut down and sent home. And we've all spent our whole lives on the road singing, so, it was cut off.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you that the time at home hasn't been good.
Oh,
It was nice to be home for a while and not have that heavy schedule, and to be with our wives and our kids and our grandkids and our pets.
Yeah.
You mentioned a dog, I got cats. And though, man, that's a harmony. It's a harmony in your home. And that's a support system, man, for us that is necessary for us to go out on the road and do what we do and do it at that high level. And the Oak Ridge Boys mantra was not only to do it right and to sing right, take care of business, but treat people right.
William, you're featured on Time Has Made a Change.
Yeah.
In me. You find yourself these days a little kinder?
I think so, probably.
You think you're a little more gentle?
On occasion, and then sometimes you can be old and cantankerous.
Are you a little less to get angry?
Maybe sometimes.
Do you think things through in your head a little longer than maybe you used to before they come out through your mouth?
Well, sometimes, it's time to think before you speak, and sometimes while you're thinking before you speak, you realize maybe you shouldn't speak.
You should.
So
I feel like I'm witnessing a psychoanalysis session.
You find yourself enjoying the sunsets more these years?
I do. In fact, I've taken a lot of pictures of sunsets, so I do enjoy them more, I think, because you realize that most of them are behind you.
The things of earth will dim and lose their value. Now, honestly, we're all in the upper years, okay? Is that true?
Yes.
Things of
Yes.
earth will dim and
Dim.
lose their value. If we'll recall, they're just borrowed for a while. Things of earth that cause the heart to tremble, remembered there, will only bring a smile. So I've got to come back to these eternal truths.
I think more than anything we recorded for your companies over the years, and there's been quite a few, your input was just so important on this hymns album, because it was like, oh boy, the Oaks are going to do a hymns album. Let's get out those old hymns and let's have the Oak Ridge Boys put their thing on it. And then it was a matter of, all right, which ones are they going to do?
Yeah.
And you had so much input back then. I know that Dwayne always was coming. I talked to Bill last night, and Bill said, and I don't know, it meant a lot, man. It just meant a lot, because it puts your stamp, not only your stamp of approval on the project, but it was fun to sing those old hymns and bringing it up to date right now. We do live in a world right now that needs the message of these old hymns. There's a lot of negative stuff going on out there, a lot of hatred, man, a lot of vitriol. People need the gospel. They need it more than ever before. Jesus Christ is the healing balm. And He can bring our country together. He can bring everybody together individually and collectively if we'll just have our faith in Him. They need to hear these hymns. That's what I'm saying.
Love trumps hate.
Yeah,
And so that's the deal. Is, we got to focus our attentions on more about love, and that's what we're talking about. What Jesus Christ taught, about loving each other, and that's what I think our country and the world needs. It's not just our country; the whole world.
I guess being from Texas, you've known the Bushes for a long time. And when Elder Mr. Bush was ill there in the hospital, you stopped there several times during that time?
Well, there was one time he was in the hospital, and they couldn't really get him well enough for him to go home. It would seem that he would get better, and they would think that he was about well enough to go home, and then they said, well, you better stay another few days. And so we got a call from Dora, their daughter, and she said, would you call my daddy and try to cheer him up? We think that might help cheer him up. He needs something to just kind of get him over the hill a little bit. So we all went down to the office immediately and set up a time, and our general manager that works in our office set up some cameras, and he recorded the phone conversation. And we called him and sang whatever he wanted to hear. And he wanted to hear some Elvira, and he wanted to hear some Amazing Grace. And mainly we all visited with him. And then we sent him the video. And the next day, the video went viral. And the next day he went home. And he gave us credit for healing him. And we accepted that, but not in a spiritual way as much as just being good friends and cheering him up.
You know, it's kind of funny that a little while after that, we were playing a date in Galveston, and he had just got out of the hospital, was not feeling well still, but he was on the mend. And we went by their home. They had a home in Houston there. So we went from the stage to the bus to their house. And we went in there to visit him. And on the way out, I'll never forget, we had a great time with him, obviously. We sang to him around the table, around the couch there. We sang to him again, and like we always did. And on the way out, Barbara was there, and she's such a sweetheart. And I said to Barbara, you know, Barbara, that phone call and all that we did, I just wanted to apologize for the fact that kind of blew up like it did. We didn't mean for it to be a big press deal like it ended up being. And we just wanted you to know that you know. And she says, well, you did get him better, didn't you? I said, yes, ma'am. Okay, then. I guess we're okay.
She added, we put it out.
Yeah, Barbara, they put it out. So we didn't know what happened. We were kind of afraid it slipped out there and the press got a hold of it. Oak Ridge boys sing to President Bush. But the cool thing is that we were so close to them for so many years. Not just because he was not just as a former president and first lady, but they became like
Good
friends. To me, George Bush was kind of a father image to me, like JD was, I think, to Richard. And I don't know, we had so many great conversations. I remember one in particular night in Kennebunkport, looking out at the ocean and him sitting there in his chair. And there were things politically going down then that I know I was a little worried about, kind of like we are now. And I said, what if this all goes the other way, sir? I said, what if we do kind of lose freedom? And because there were people pushing it that way at the time, like they are now. And I'll never forget, something I never forgot, he turned to me and said, good men will rise up and freedom will win. Never forgot it. And we promised him we would sing Amazing Grace at his funeral, and we did.
You did.
We did. It was one of the most incredible moments, I think, in our lives to sing with him being down there in that flag-draped coffin. The world knew him as a president and a former president, and so did we. But he was a friend. He was a father image. He was an example for us. He was very special.
You sang a song by another great country artist whom I knew on songs like I'm Glad to Be Okie from Muskogee, some of those songs.
Yeah.
But this was really a sweet song from his perspective of meeting Christ and not quite measuring up to what some of the church folks thought he ought to measure up with, which has been the tension from the beginning in the gospel. The Calvinists will base all of their theology on 1 John, simply say we've all sinned and come short of the glory of God. The Arminians and the Wesleyans will base all of their theology on shall we continue in sin? God forbid. So we've had this tension from the beginning. And poor old Merle, all he knew was he met Jesus and he changed his life. And
if he could pardon the thief on the cross, on the spot, surely he could pardon
The
Merle
soul
Haggard.
sinner, right?
Yeah,
And
a poor sinner, Merle Haggard. And he took it first person. And when we heard that song, because he gave it to my son-in-law and said, get this to Dwayne and the Oak Ridge boys because I want them to record this song for me. And we listened to it, and we didn't have anything coming up that it would fit. And so we just held it, but we got in touch with him and told him we wanted to record it. Don't pitch it to anybody else. We want to record it. But we got to wait until we've got an album. Well, we got this album coming up, Rock of Ages, hymns and gospel favorites. Well, this was we got the record label to add and gospel favorites because this is not a hymn.
No.
So this song fit into that category, and we wanted to hear Merle Haggard talk and tell what he said on that album. We sang all the rest of it, but we wanted to hear his voice telling what it felt like in his heart and soul it meant to give his heart and soul to Jesus Christ. And when you hear him talk, I think you will feel what we felt. And he sang with us from that point on to the rest of the song. And you hear him singing along with the Oak Ridge Boys for the rest of the song.
This has been a joy for me. I love you guys. I've got all of your phone numbers in my cell phone. You have mine. And we talk to each other from time to time. So this was easy for me. All I had to do was just do what we do when the cameras aren't here. But I'm glad the camera showed up today. It's just been fun.
Yes, a lot of fun,
Yes,
Bill.
yes.
Thank you.
No
Thanks.
script.
Thanks for inviting us up here, Bill. So,
We love to come up here and visit with you. I've enjoyed every time we've ever come up here to visit with you and do the homecoming tapings. They mean a lot to me personally, and I thank you for inviting us.